Hello everyone, this is Shaylee from Patterns by Shaylee, and this week we are working on our 12th and final block for the Quilt Along for a Cause 2020. This is our bear, and the bear assembles in 8 sections. The assembly itself isn't too difficult, we'll still run through it like we always do. However, the piecing is a lot more difficult on this animal versus any of the others, in my opinion, because of how tiny some of the pieces are. So when you're piecing tiny things, one thing that I like to recommend is drop your stitch length down even smaller than you normally work with. I typically work with about a 1.5, 1.6 stitch length. And so when I'm doing particularly tiny pieces, I drop it down to a 1.2, 1.3. And what that does is it gives me a couple extra stitches to secure the really tiny pieces. So instead of trying to hold something in place with 2 or 3 stitches, now I'm getting 4 or 5, and suddenly it doesn't wiggle as much, and it's much easier to work with, in my opinion. If you have problems with really bulky seams, you can try trimming the fabric. You can play around a little bit with trimming the 1/4 inch seam a little bit shorter as you piece. I also had somebody recommend that you can trim the 2 pieces of fabric to different lengths. It's not something I've tried, so I can't tell you if it works particularly well. However, that is something that I have heard. Maybe one day I'll give it a try and let you know if it is my new preferred way. So this is our final block for the Quilt Along, as I said before, and I believe this is going to be my final video. Once we start working with an entire quilt, I think I'm going to start doing just photos in the blog, because I just don't have the camera set up to incorporate an entire quilt as I work for you to still be able to see. And so this is my final video for this particular Quilt Along. Don't forget, at the end of this week, so you have 7 days to get all 12 blocks posted. They do not have to be sewn together to one another yet, but if you get all 12 blocks sewn separately and put on your Instagram with the 2 hashtags that we've got going for this Quilt Along, you can get entered to win one of our fun prizes. Thank you to Sue from Fabric Gypsies for sponsoring this Quilt Along. Let's get started sewing our bear sections together. The first step is to assemble section A to B. And when we go to assemble section A to B, there are several places that need to make sure they are lined up appropriately. So you're going to want across his nose to line up, as well as what's going to be kind of the top of his snout, and then the bottom of his nose. So what I'm gonna do is probably start with the top of his nose and then work my way out. Some of these seams will nest, and that's gonna help you out and make it a lot easier. But I still, even when they nest, I use a straight pin and glue, just like always, to make sure that we get everything lined up as exact as possible. And just a reminder, when you go to pin the top of A2, you're not pinning to the furthest point. You're pinning down here. And now we're going to pin sections A and B to section C. And again, you're going to use not the top point of A, but the bottom point down here. And the same places are going to need to match up. So the top of the snout, the top of the nose, and the bottom of the nose. So now we're going to take section A, B, C and attach it to the body, which is D. And you'll notice when we go to attach it, the only spots that need to match up precisely are the outside corners, as well as the background to the face right here. So section C11 to the edge of what will be D1. Now we're going to take section A, B, C, D and attach it to section E. When we do that, the only points that really matter are the outside corners. So I pin the outside corners, stick a pin in the middle to even it out, and then sew it right up. And again, we are finally going to use that top point of A. So that's why we have not sewn up there yet, because now we've got a straight line that goes through A, C, and D. We're going to set A, B, C, D, E to the side, and we're going to attach F to G. And when we attach F to G, we really need to just make sure the corners match up and then even it out in the middle. We'll take A, B, C, D, E and attach it to F, G. When we go to attach these, the only spots that matter are the corners again. Like I said, this one assembles pretty easy once you get past the nose. And now we will sew A, B, C, D, E, F, G to H. And just like the other large blocks that we've been attaching, we do not need to match these seams up to anything except for the corners, so we have a nice square block. And that's it. This is our 12th and final block. Once you're done, make sure you've posted all 12 blocks. They don't have to be sewn together onto Instagram using both of our hashtags so that we can get you entered into the prize drawing sponsored by Sue from Fabric Gypsies.